Everybody else is focused on Bitcoin. There's a couple of interesting attributes of our operating business, right? One is we're characterized as an operating company as opposed to a financial company. You know, the Bitcoin that we have, right? We put about, I think, $45 billion into Bitcoin at this point in time. But no, at that point in time in August of 2020, the idea that we were going to lever the company, go to convertible notes, secured notes, Bitcoin-backed debt, and then preferreds was not something that was on the table.
Use excess cash from the software business, about $600 million at the time, to buy and hold Bitcoin. There was no plan yet for leverage, notes, preferred shares, or a multi-billion-dollar treasury strategy. But when Michael built a model projecting outcomes based on Bitcoin appreciation and MicroStrategy's NAV premium, the long-term potential became undeniable. In hindsight, the company's real-world results have exceeded even the optimistic projections.
Everybody else is focused on Bitcoin. There's a couple of interesting attributes of our operating business, right? One is we're characterized as an operating company as opposed to a financial company. Now, because we have Bitcoin on our balance sheet as a commodity, that's still okay, not a security, right? But that helps structurally. The other thing that we stumbled upon more recently is we have negative taxable earnings and profits. Right. Our software business, although generating an operating profit because of some of the other characteristics of it, equity, stock-based comp, we have negative taxable earnings and profits. Because of that, our preferreds and the dividends we pay on our preferreds are return of capital. What that means is if you own our preferreds for most jurisdictions around the world, because we're not paying the dividends out of profits, we're paying the dividends out of our capital, is tax deferred until you sell the underlying. It's a huge deal, right? Like, so normal dividends are taxed at, call it a 15-20% tax rate, right? Capital gains in the US. And that's at a federal level. You add state and local taxes on top of that, it get as high as 20-25%. And then you take, if you have a money market or ordinary income, right, like your compensation for your job, that's taxed at anywhere between 30 to 40%, 37, call it 30 to 37% at a federal level. You add all the tax on top of that, you might be paying 40, 50%. You live in New York City, 55% tax rates. What we have in our preferreds, paying 10.5% like a stretch, all that tax is deferred. Meaning you only have to pay the taxes if you sell the underlying. If you hold the underlying, you're getting 10.5%, but on a tax equivalent basis, that's 17, 20, 23%.
Interesting.
It's quite magical. And that's partially because we have this underlying operating business that generates negative taxable E&P. I was aware of Bitcoin and not deep in it at all. And I still remember it was March of 2020. Michael brought me into his office, and this is right after COVID. Nobody could go to the office, and they let people start going again. And he's like, Phong, I have something really important to talk to you about. And he's like, I don't want you to jump to any conclusions. I don't want you to just, let me tell you, what do you know about Bitcoin? I said, not much. And he said, I think we should consider it. And he said, now, here are a bunch of things for you to go watch and read. And once you've done that, why don't we get back together in a few days and tell me what you think? And that was the beginning.
And so when you went off, he's almost like giving you your homework. You went off and read these books and listened to whatever. What was your kind of gut instinct of this being a good idea for the company or not?
Well, so before we even went into what to do with it, I just thought it was fascinating, right? Like this whole idea of, again, being a software guy, decentralized computing, fascinating. Blockchain, fascinating. Store of value, I didn't even sort of quite go there yet. It's just really the technology, the white paper. And it was, I wasn't staying up until 4 a.m. watching, videos, but I was consuming 5-6 hours a day. And the more and there wasn't a lot of great content in 2020. Like, people forget.
Hey, we were around.
You guys are around, right? But they're really like, now you can literally find tens of thousands of hours of content. Back then, There was no mainstream, right? It's not like the Wall Street Journal was writing about it. It's not like Morgan Stanley had a report you could pick up. It was just a bunch of random people. And so it was absolutely, and this was right in the midst of COVID too. So you're questioning, what's happening in the world. You're questioning the role of government. You're questioning, back then, I would say in March, not many people had made a conclusion that this is a reason to shut down the NBA or to close down offices and buildings or not. And so it was a dark time, and searching for something that brought a little bit of light was easy. It was easy to find something that was interesting and read about it and learn.
Was the initial thing to just turn that cash that you sat on into Bitcoin before doing everything you've done since?
Yeah. The initial thing was absolutely think about it as just a buy and hold Bitcoin strategy using excess cash from the software business. So we had about $600 million at that point in time on our balance sheet. And in addition, we were generating anywhere between $75 and $100 million of excess cash from our software business a year. And you can imagine going from, call it $600-700 million and then another $100 million a year. That would have taken us a lot of time to accumulate, the Bitcoin that we have, right? We put about, I think, $45 billion into Bitcoin at this point in time. But at that point in time, in August of 2020, the idea that we were going to lever the company, go to convertible notes, secured notes, Bitcoin-backed debt, and then preferreds was not something that was on the table. I do remember, though, that we talked about it for a month or so, and Michael showed me this model he built in Excel that projected if we bought Bitcoin and Bitcoin went up a certain amount and we traded at a certain premium to NAV, what the stock price of Strategy could have been looking 3, 4, 5 years out. So we built a model. I played around with it. We made some adjustments to the assumptions. And, if we were to look at that model now, we would have broken the model.
To the upside.
To the upside.
That's amazing.
Yeah. And I remember we had a couple laughs. I was like, oh, well, that would be nice.
When Phong became CEO in 2022 and Saylor shifted to executive chairman, many assumed it was due to Bitcoin volatility. But internally, the transition had been planned for years. Phong was already running the software business day to day, while Saylor increasingly focused on Bitcoin advocacy and strategy. The timing during a deep Bitcoin bear market was coincidental, not reactive.
We made our announcement August 10th of 2020. Square, now Block, made their announcement a couple months later. Tesla, I think, in March or April of 2021. And at the same time, Elon said that SpaceX had done the same. Overstock did this in 2012, so kudos to them. And we ran our first Bitcoin for corporations. I think that might have been May of 2021. And we had thousands of people show up online. This was virtual, of course. And when that occurred, I remember thinking to myself, the floodgates have opened. And interestingly, off the back of that, I probably talked to, in the course of 6 months after Bitcoin for corporations, 2 to 3 dozen public company treasurers, CFOs, CEOs. And so I figure I'm talking to them all. And I remember talking to our team, talking to Mike, say, I talked to this person, this person, this person. They all said they're interested. And the year went along, 2021, Bitcoin goes up to, I think, 67,000 at some point in 2021 at the end of the year. And I figure everybody just missed the boat. And why didn't everybody announce like we did? So yeah, I thought the floodgates were going to open, and they didn't in 2021. And I was a little disappointed. The underlying business by itself isn't necessarily required, but it brings a lot of advantages, right? We've been a public company since 1998. We're a well-known seasoned issuer, which means that we can add an ATM without regulatory approval from the SEC. We have a finance team. So we have, in our software business, in our total business today, we have about 1,500 employees. 10 focus on Bitcoin, 1490 on software. Within that 1490, we have a team that creates websites, that manages our website. So creatingstrategy.com, we just had people who could do that, right? We have a finance team of about 100 people. They know how to file SEC reports. They know how to talk to analysts and investors. They understand the capital markets. We have a legal team of about 35 people. They understand, again, sort of governance, SEC reporting. We've been creating products since the 1990s, right? Our preferreds are common, they're products, right? And so we know how to market them, we know how to distribute them. So the advantage of having the operating company, one is the already there since 1998, right? 22 years of being a public company, established, knows how to file SEC reports. So all the corporate governance exists.
Yeah, all the processes are in place, everything runs.
We have people who can do all these things, finance, legal people. Mike's been a public company CEO since 1998. I've been a public company CFO since 2015. So the contrast with what we have, the operating company is useful, right? But all of the processes and the people and the expertise. And now you look at some of these Bitcoin treasury companies, they don't necessarily have all of that, right? And so there's clearly a contrast of maturity and capability and ability to execute that some of these Bitcoin treasury companies don't have. Semler Scientific, who was the second one, they had an established business, right? Eric Semler is an established entrepreneur. And so there's maturity there. Being the CEO of one of the most interesting, if not the most interesting company in the world, is an ambitious position and an ambitious role. This is, most public companies have a succession planning process. So it's not like August 2022, he comes to me and says, "Hey, Phong, guess what? I'm going to step down, and tomorrow you're going to be the CEO and I'm going to be executive chairman." Right. And this is something we've been talking about for multiple years prior to this, and the board too, and it's part of a thoughtful succession planning process. And it made sense. Michael wanted to spend 100% of his time focused on Bitcoin strategy, Bitcoin advocacy, and our Bitcoin treasury business. And I had been working and running the software business. I was already president running the day-to-day of the software business. So it made logical sense to have that delineation of responsibilities. Now, the reality is not really that much change day to day, right? Day to day, I was already running the software business. I was already executing on the Bitcoin strategy. And Mike was the evangelist and the one who established our Bitcoin strategy. So from July 2022 to September 2022, not that much changed. The irony of it all, of course, was this was during the middle of Bitcoin winter, 2022. And people are like, oh, Michael stepped down as CEO. It must be because Bitcoin's not doing well and our stock was, no, it had nothing to do with that. This was just part of the succession planning process.
From tax-efficient preferred shares to billion-dollar Bitcoin acquisitions, MicroStrategy's journey reflects both strategic brilliance and disciplined execution. Under Phong Le and Michael Saylor, the company didn't simply adopt Bitcoin. It engineered an entire corporate framework around it. Their story shows what becomes possible when technological vision meets financial innovation.